delve more into the specifics with an associate professor of economics at the Department of Economics at the University of Ghana, Professor Eric Asibe. I'm grateful for your time this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Prof, what's your assessment of the raft of revenue measures government says will rescue the economy from the devastation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic? One, it intends to introduce a COVID-19 health levy. It intends to review existing road tolls. It says will correspond with existing market prices. Intends to introduce 10% sanitation tax on petroleum products and more. Many say this will further compound the hardships of Ghanaians. What's the reality, Prof?
Well, I would say that it's a necessary evil that these tax has to be introduced because, Aisha, if you look at government budgets, this particular budget and the budgets that have come before are often very heavy on social spending. We live in a country where there are a lot of social or broad-based social expenditures. We have the free senior high school. We have huge, about 5 flagship social protection programs, the LEAP program, the school feeding program, the LIPW, the NHIS. I mean, all of these are social programs that benefit almost every household in this country. And so for a budget that is very heavy on social spending, and you know these social expenditures have to be financed, they have to be paid for. And therefore, definitely somebody has to pay for this. In countries where they are very heavy on social spending, you realize that they collect a lot more taxes. The tax to GDP often ranges between 30 to 40%. But here we are in this country, our tax to GDP is just about 13%. So there's often huge financing gap in terms of government ability to sustain some of these flagship programs. And that has often pushes government to borrow more in order to still be able to spend on infrastructure and at the same time spend on this very important social expenditures. Now with the insurgence or the resurgence of the COVID, we've realized that there's not much fiscal space for government to continue to borrow. We now have gotten to a threshold that really it will not inure to our good to continue to pile up debts. Now it's about 76% of GDP. We are paying interest, or interest servicing is about 8.7% of GDP. These are huge. And so we cannot really go on that path. So we have always said that there's a need for government to look within to try to raise more revenue in order to reduce our borrowing, which is not helping. And so I believe that for us to be able to sustain this program, which really, at the end of the day, it benefits all of us, I think that is a bold step that government has taken. And I'm hoping that we will embrace it because at the end of the day, it's going directly into our social spending, which benefits the people directly, the health-related expenditures, right? School feeding, free senior high school. I think we all don't want these programs to collapse. And therefore, if government is finding a more sustainable sources of financing, I think that we know that the COVID really has impacted on household, on businesses so badly, negatively. But it is also in our own interest, in businesses' interest, in household interest, that government really find a much more sustainable way of financing this program, other than depending on loans, going to borrow, which really becomes a debt overhang, missing all our revenues to servicing this debt and really destabilizing the macroeconomic environment. And so for me, I think that it's going to be difficult, but I think it's time that we all tighten our belts and embrace these new tax measures.
Prof, what's your reaction, or how do you react to the country's current debt stock? Are we on the right path?
Well, I wouldn't say we are on the right path. Obviously, it has increased, and once it has increased to this level, crossing the 70% threshold, we cannot say we are on the
All right, so we'll try and get Professor Sibe back on to talk about Ghana's debt stock. Now, Darrell Bonsu is also Deputy National Director of Arocha Ghana. He joins us via Zoom. Mr. Bonsu, I'm grateful for your time. You advocate a lot for things to be done right as far as our environment is concerned. Now, government says it intends to introduce a sanitation tax on petroleum products to help deal with sanitation problems. Some say it's actually a lazy way of dealing with the matter at hand. What's your own evaluation of this decision by government?
Marsha, and I agree to a certain extent that yes, at some point we need to, as a country, put in place the necessary measures to take very good initiatives that would secure the well-being of Ghanaians. But in doing that, we need to also take into consideration the sources of the pollution, and also in this case, as we're talking about sanitation issues, the sources of the waste, which is the reason why some of these taxes have been imposed. So I feel that waste management and also dealing with pollution in the country, we need to take a critical look at the various producers of waste and get them to take responsibility for what they produce. We need to look at how we can also put in place mechanisms where people pay as they throw their waste away. We need to look at mechanisms where we can give incentives to, I would say, recyclers and also individuals, households, and companies who are actually putting in mechanisms to make sure that they don't even put waste out there. But to just go ahead and put a straightforward sanitation levy means that we are actually encouraging people to do as they want, not making people responsible. And we are allowing people to just ensure that they really are not responsible for what they do. And this is where we want government not to encourage that. We need to, yes, in certain periods of our development, put in place a carrot and stick approach to dealing with issues. But for sanitation, I don't think that putting a sanitation levy is the right to go. And to a certain extent, government is actually failing to address the real challenges of waste in the system in terms of the management governance system in place to deal with it. So like you said, it's a bit of a lazy way to really address the situation.
I'm grateful for your time. Darrell Bonsu is Deputy Director at Arocha Ghana, an NGO that deals with environment, and Professor Charles Asibe is an Associate Professor of Economics at the University of Ghana. I'm grateful for your time.